Hi everyone, and welcome back to Harp and Guitar, People and Music. So I want to welcome you back here again today for another episode of Blues History here with Whiskey. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about a gentleman by the name of T-Bone Walker. Some of you may be very familiar with T-Bone Walker, and others may have never heard of T-Bone. But I'm a huge fan of his, and I think he was probably one of the greatest blues guitar players who ever lived, and he was a huge influence on many of the subsequent generations of blues guitarists that followed after him. Even the most limited knowledge of blues and its origins, I've heard of guys like B.B. King and Buddy Guy, Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Their guitar licks and fast fingers are the stuff of legend, inspiring teens in their bedrooms and rock gods alike. But where does it all come from? These men and others such as Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, they found inspiration from a lot of artists that they were able to borrow from many of these sources to help carve out their own unique sound or style. Players like King and Clapton had a buffet spread out before them which they could return to again and again to fill their plates. However, for all of these guys, the basics that they could build on were already there. They had the meat and the potatoes covered. And for any good bluesman, that's all you really need. That meat that they feasted upon wasn't any old sirloin either. No, it was a sizzling hot T-bone named T-Bone Walker. Now, Aaron T-Bone Walker was born in Linden, Texas in 1910, and he moved to Dallas with his family at the age of 2. The T-Bone, the nickname derived from his middle name, Thibodeau, was exposed to music at a very early age through both of his parents, but most notably from a family friend and fellow Texan, blues great Blind Lemon Jefferson. You see, between the ages of 10 and 13 years old, T-Bone assisted Jefferson when he toured through the U.S. in exchange for guitar lessons. So soon Walker was off on his own, traveling with carnivals and medicine shows, building his reputation along the way. Now, probably due to the geographical location of Texas, Walker was able to absorb a vast array of influences from all over the southern United States. In his playing, there are hints of the Delta, as well as the blatant use of New Orleans jazz phrasing, and of course the unmistakable Texas blues sound. Now, another influence most certainly had to be Lightning Hopkins from Houston, who also played with Blind Lemon Jefferson as well. Now, T-Bone made his first recordings in late 1929 and early 1930. And by 1934 was playing lead guitar in Cab Calloway's band, among others, of course. Now, when Walker decided to move to Los Angeles, California in 1934, his vacancy paved the way for friend and up-and-coming guitarist Charlie Christian to fill in. And Christian would later be touted as the seminal jazz guitarist of all time. But it was while in Los Angeles, in the mid-30s, that T-Bone really started experimenting with early versions of electric guitars. And he's thought to be really one of the first to play it for the public. Now, around this time, he also increased his visibility through gigging, often reuniting with his old friend and contemporary Lightning Hopkins, who came to LA to record in 1946. So he has appearances in places such as the famous Cotton Club in Culver City, California. And he continued recording throughout this period. And in 1946, he broke big with 2 huge smash hits. The first, they call it Stormy Monday, which became a blues classic almost instantly. And of course, the T-Bone Shuffle. Now, these are just 2 examples of the supreme command that Walter had on his intimate knowledge of the electric guitar. No one could touch T-Bone when it came to the way he played. He was doing things at the time that nobody had even conceived of. He was a master of pitch and dynamics, amplification, and clear-cut, imaginative chord phrasing. It's widely accepted that he all but invented the single-string solos and note bending that later made B.B. King and Hendrix famous. See, this combined with his his wild and off-the-wall showmanship kind of secured T-Bone as the undisputed guitar hero of his time. His stage antics included lengthy solos where he would play with his teeth and put the guitar behind his back or behind his neck. He'd play in crazy positions with it between his legs, or he would do the splits and high kicks while he was playing. Now, this too would be emulated decades later by the likes of Earl Hooker and Chuck Berry and Jimi Hendrix, and pretty much any of the 80s lead guitarists who came after. However, Walker didn't let these theatrics overshadow the fact that he was the quintessential musician. He didn't just play a mean guitar. He was also a very polished pianist, and he was an excellent singer as well. He often worked with small orchestral accompaniment, and in fact, had T-Bone wished to drop the guitar altogether, which would have changed the course of popular music forever, but I believe he still would have been just as successful. With his voice alone, he could have joined the ranks of some of the most accomplished crooners of the day, such as Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. He had one of those honey-soaked voices that could send adrift your thoughts and dreams and leave you thinking, how could a man with such a smooth, rich voice be the same man who assaults his guitar with such force and power? But that was the beauty of T-Bone. He was an enigma into himself, really. He was one of the few artists of his time, or any time really, that had the sheer vision to explore all the many facets of his instrument. The volume, the feedback, playing solos, yet still possessed that cool vocal style that just seemed to fit in with what he was doing, you know? Now, T-Bone Walker's contributions to the world of modern blues and ultimately rock and roll are almost too many to list. From his pioneering experiments with the first electric guitar in the 30s, his mastery of the blues shuffle rhythm in the 40s, his blues and R&B hits recorded by both him and others. In the 50s, his European tours, touring in the 60s with the American Folk Blues Festival, his Grammy Award in 1970 for his album Feeling Good. There's really nothing that he couldn't do. He's been cited by Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Stevie Ray, Chuck Berry, Hendrix, Buddy Guy, and Otis Rush as one of the top few major influences on their playing. And he was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 1980 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Not bad for a guy who, when he was 10 years old, used to lead around a blind Lemon Jefferson through the dust bowls of the Great Depression in Texas and the southern United States. So I hope you enjoyed this tasty bite of a Sizzlin T-Bone. I want to thank you once again for popping by and joining us here today at Harp and Guitar, People and Music. Please don't forget to like the video, share it, and of course let us know what you think down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. So we'll talk to you again real soon, folks. Thank you very much for popping in. Take care and have a good one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.